What were you planning to be for Halloween? Before you decide on your costume, let's have a talk of what your costume really means. You may look at an indigenous costume and think, wow, that's pretty. I want to wear that. But have you ever stopped to think about the cultural significance of those clothes? You may not realize wearing clothing or indigenous culture costumes is cultural appropriation. What is cultural appropriation? Cultural appropriation is the act of taking or using things from another culture that isn't your own, especially without showing that you understand or respect this culture.
Dressing up as a sexy Indian ignores the fact that 2,000 indigenous girls, women, and two-spirited people have been sexually assaulted, gone missing, or murdered. Wearing these costumes contributes to the objectification and sexualization of them. Costumes make people think they're more like Halloween characters, not real people. When people dress as Indians, they don't realize how much indigenous people have been through and how much they had to fight to get their traditional clothes back. They are not characters. Halloween costumes are not the only example of where this form of cultural appropriation occurs. Cultural days at school, music festivals, and fashion shows are places where you might also see this cultural appropriation. Many may not understand that even if someone says it's okay to wear indigenous clothing, you do not know the true meaning of that clothing. So even if it's a feather headband and you think it looks good, we don't know the indigenous meaning behind it. These costumes do not consider the significance of the culture they are portraying or the strength and resilience of the people they are embodying.
Hornmiller found herself in a challenging situation at a store where she raised the issue of cultural appropriation when she saw a woman in a Pocahontas costume in the mall. The interaction became intense as different viewpoints clashed, and people told her to go home if she doesn't like Halloween. She took great offense to this, as she was just trying to stick up for her culture. And this is just proof that every day people are taking advantage of indigenous cultures. The reactions to the story only sided against Hornmiller and against indigenous people as they think she was being dramatic. We need to get people aware of this. A culture is not a costume. You wear the costume for one night, indigenous people wear the stigma for life. We must talk about these issues not only to show our respect to indigenous peoples, but to get other fashion designers and social media influencers aware of this issue to prevent it from happening now and in the future. Only then can we start to work towards a future where traditional clothing is worn solely by whom associates with that particular culture.
Call it out. If you see someone wearing a culture as a costume, it's time for a talk.